when you gave the other example, what came up is that you to smile. And that's what I was referring to. That when they ask us not to smile on our identification card, um, that I feel that's when I realized that that entity wasn't me, because my nickname when I was at work was Smiley, and I did not smile. And I really related to that, to what you add as an example, because it. I remember the feeling when they first asked me not to smile. I thought, what do you mean not to smile? That's not me. Well, that's the rule now, and it penetrated my soul that to say that that's when I really felt the separation and the like I wasn't I wasn't shy anymore. That when I was being arrested, to say to the officer, well, I don't have any identification, and if you want me to show something of what your system works with, I will show you. You will have to put me under duress for me to show it, because I don't associate with this anymore. So I just wanted to add that, because I feel that anyway, for me, a smile is so important, and I really like that association. That when you say, when you don't like, when it's your enemy, you don't like them, well, you won't smile anymore. So in a way, I'm glad that I didn't smile in the, like, there's a reverse psychology there. I'm glad that I didn't smile on those cards, because it's not me. So I just wanted to add that. So I don't know.
Oui, oui. Oui, qu'est-ce que t'es pas obligé de dire de quoi? Si t'as quelque chose. I'm Anik. I am the daughter of Kiki, granddaughter of Ella and Rita. I am the mother of Zaki. I would like to talk about the identity. Um, it's funny, I had the same feeling when I had to go for my passport, and I felt so wrong, because, yeah, the first time I took a picture for my passport, of course, I'm a smiley person, so the picture didn't work. I had to go back to the pharmacy and have another picture taken for my passport. I had to go 3 times. And I was like, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with these people? Like, that's who I am. Like, I'm sorry if I have a smiley face. Even if I don't smile, I still have a smile on, It's like the father of my child, when he would look at me sleeping at night, I was like really asleep. He says, it's funny, when you're sleeping, you look like you're smiling. You wake up in the morning, your eyes are closed, and you have a little smile on your face. That's just who I am. So yeah, that was really, you know, a, a learning curve for me to try to understand, why they don't want us to smile. And today, with what we were talking about, it just everything makes so much sense. So I don't know how I'm gonna do it for the next picture, but anyways, that was really challenging. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.
Everybody, very nice, really happy to be here with all of you. My name is Geraldine. I'm from Mexico. You're talking about a smiling, and I just want to share one of the experience that I had about a smiling and somebody telling me not to smile. uh, uh,
maybe 5 years ago, I went to Mexico for a healing journey. I stayed for 5 months, and in one of those days, I was on the beach of Tulum, and I arrived to this magic place that I didn't know what it was, but it was just coming into my flow, and I was received in this kind of a hammock, and then I closed my eyes, and there were some of these medicine men and women who was drumming around. And one a couple came to me and started drumming on top of me. Um, and I felt so happy and so felt like fulfilled and just like in a dream. But I just closed my eyes and allowed all this magic to come into me, and I smiled. And the guy was very kind of not happy about it, and he said, "Stop smiling," while he was drumming on top of me. And I was like, I can't stop smiling. And the woman whispered in my ear, keep smiling. So yeah, I just wanted to share these both medicine men and women, both in this process of healing, and the male energy saying not to smile, and the woman saying keep smiling. So let's keep smiling.
Oh, I'm going to go ahead and drop us for the season. Okay, well, that one, well, you just said there's a lot to wonder about there. Who the heck was this guy? And acting in what capacity? And he's coming over you and tells you not to smile? That's all, yeah. It would be on the lines of bad medicine, but not like where somebody's trying to do something bad to you. Well, actually, yeah. Because if they're telling you not to smile, it's like they are telling you not to enjoy or not to really relate to this medicine the way that you feel comfortable with. For anybody to say that, don't smile, something wrong with the person that you were exposed to. Unless there is some kind of legitimate reason, but I have never heard in my life within ceremonies or anything where they would say, stop smiling. Sometimes in life there may be those circumstances where it might uh, serve you well, maybe to not smile. Under certain circumstances, who knows what that would be. But anyways, yeah, if there is somebody's doing something negative to you and you kept smiling, well then it might be interpreted as that, well, the negative is okay. So in certain things. Anyways, uh, just get right back into it. What wampum were we on? Okay, so wampum 3, this is within the duties and functions of the central fire of the Onondaga Nation. Now, just the title itself uh, tells you something. That the titles, whether it's Kadadaho or any of the other titles, they have duties and functions. And that isn't just of, say, of them being an individual. That's the duties and functions of the central fire. So Taradaho, whoever that man would be that would fill the role of Taradaho, before he is filling the role of Taradaho, he would be within the Onondaga Nation. And the Onondaga Nation, absolutely every person, women, men, children, all have responsibility to the central fire. But they're talking about titles, duties and functions of the central fire. You're identifying about Taradaho and the other titles, which is something. If anybody got a pen, just toss it if you can. Sorry, We're gonna have to write a little note here. Duties and functions of the central fire on the Onondaga Nation. Duties and functions of the titles of the central fire. Of titles, duties and functions of the central fire on a dog and nation in relation to the titles. If that isn't right, like completely later on, it's just to put note in here that we identify the titles because every part of the law is identifying what avenues you have to take should there be any kind of corruption. So if it doesn't say, for people today, oh, it doesn't say the titles, people will take it literally. Well, since it doesn't say the titles, well, then it doesn't apply to the titles. So just for that purpose. But when we go back into the final corrections, that we will identify the titles. Okay, so start off. You, Taradaho, and your unadopted cousin chiefs, I and the other united chiefs of the Confederacy have entrusted the sacred duty of caretaking and watching over the Five Nations Council fire people. Simple thing, just to expand on that a bit. When he says I and the other uh, chiefs of the Five Nations, that this is, remember, on the Ganawida is speaking. So he entrusts Taradaha to watch over the fire. But also, Hiawatha. And don't forget, Hiawatha was, you could say they were almost like arch nemesis, Hiawatha and Taradaha, prior to the formation of the league. So this, again, will, if you are at the flag, when those warring nations are fighting against each other, just where they come to the great peace, now just remember the day before. They were all killing each other, but in particular, the powers of Hiawatha and Garadaho were particularly adversarial, more so than anyone else. And so now to know that when the Garida says I and the others, including Hiawatha, that Hiawatha it was not appreciated enough in today's world, since we're so far from that flashpoint, to understand what it means when it says, I and the others entrust you with this. So here's all the others that were maybe subjected to Noradaho, and here is Hiawatha, who was uh, an equal but an arch nemesis. So the others that you could easily slap around, yeah, they're subjected to you. But now the one that is a direct power equal to yours, that you couldn't just slap around, is there now also entrusting you. This is something easy to look over as to really what the full meaning of this is. But imagine the person who killed your brother, if something like that was unfortunate enough to happen. Knock on wood, if something like that doesn't happen. But imagine that if not a person who killed your brother, you are now entrusting that person in such a sacred duty of helping to provide for your peace of mind. There is again big psychology that would have to take place in order for those circumstances to come into being. So it's very easy to hear this, very easy to read it, and to really not comprehend or fully appreciate the magnitude of what those individuals went through, what they had to sustain in order so that their children could live in peace. The children don't know that we're killing each other. And if we came to terms together to say, let's not kill each other anymore so that our kids don't grow up to kill each other, if we came to those terms, the children would not know the agreement that we have between each other. And if we wanted the peace of mind for our children, we would never tell them. We would never truly uh, expose them to what the true conditions were. You all know that war is human atrocities. War is, it's, of course, the exact opposite of life. So if life is good, everything in war is bad, but exponentialized. So again, we really can't appreciate enough, even when we do acknowledge. You can never acknowledge and appreciate it enough to know what those people went through who were killing each other and then come together to form a great peace. This shows us, like we know, everybody is dependent upon each other for the peace, which means we go back again into the way the non-native world is today currently. They, if they're in a battle and they overpower physically their enemy, they come down on their enemy with charging them as war criminals when they themselves are war criminals. So the reality of when a person or people do this, nations do this, they are actually perpetrating the war, keeping it going to the point of where the purpose for us achieving peace, the young ones, that you end up putting on the corruption of war, again, such as like what allows remember World War One. How stupid you have to be when this child here is going to be exposed to as soon as he's in school at whatever that day that is, Memorial Day or whatever, he's going to be exposed to World War One. Well, that's 100 years before his time. He's going to be exposed to World War Two. This is the corruption in the non-native world, not knowing how to get over the war mentality. Okay, anyways. When there is any business to be transacted and the council of the great peace is not in session, a messenger shall be dispatched either to Taradaho, Anumayatu, or Skanawadi, fire keepers, or to their war chief with a full statement of the case desired to be considered. Then shall Taradaho call his cousin chiefs, associated chiefs together, and consider whether the case is of sufficient importance to demand the attention of the Five Nations Grand Council. If so, Taradaho shall dispatch the messengers to summon all the united chiefs of the Five Nations to assemble beneath the great tree of peace of the Grand Council. So ultimately, like what we said earlier, that absolutely every person in the Five Nations has access to the central point of consciousness at all times. And it draws you to the opening, to the edge of the woods, and you're standing there on the edge of the great waters, and you see a big ship that comes from across the great waters. You may be the only person to see that. Since you are the only one, you have to immediately bring this to the attention of all the united people, which means that you have an immediate process that can get that information from one person to hundreds of thousands to millions of people all at once in an instant. There is a process that may take a little bit of time, but it would still be within that time frame that would constitute it being urgent. So you would, if it was me, I would come back and I would say to either my male chief or my female chief, the clan mullet or the chief, I would say to either one of them, this is what I see. And whatever, like we would see the urgency. And so then that either the clan mullet would bring it then to the attention of the chief, or from there the chief would bring it to the attention of the clan mullet. Either way, whoever it is brought to first, they are bound, since the chief and clan mullet work together, that the chief cannot do anything unless he is under the watchful eye of his clan mullet, of his female chief. So either one of them, whoever you tell, you know it's going to get to that point of where it is the head of that particular clan, and then that particular clan will bring it to the attention of the other heads, and where the nation would have that information right away. Now that process wouldn't take long because if I was up front and I'm on the ocean, I see this boat, I would come back here, I would say, hey, right here, this is what's going on. What? Okay, all the rest of these are all here, all the other heads are here. So he would just jump up right away and would say, Kajoko. And this is what Stuart told me that he's seen, and we got to deal with this. And everybody instantaneously in each of the clans, all the heads would identify, okay, we have to bring this to the attention of the Grand Council of all the other nations. So it would be a runner dispatched immediately, and that runner would go, as we had said, to the Onondaga Nation and would bring it to the awareness of those particular titles. And then they, in accordance with law, would have to determine, like it says, if it constitutes the calling together of all the chieftainship titles. No, just because it may not constitute bringing them all together in a grand council doesn't mean that it ends right there. It may not constitute a grand council, but it is information that is pertinent. And so the Onondaga, either Totogaho or the other one, would determine, okay, well, it's not necessary to have a grand council on this, but pertinent information, let's dispatch runners to all the nations to tell them of what is what what was seen here. So then, like that, within that reasonable amount of time that it takes for all of this to take place, that all the other nations would automatically have that information. They would not necessarily be constituted in Grand Council. But if it is does constitute bringing everyone together, then Tadadaho will have no choice but to dispatch the runners. Now, if it does constitute a Grand Council calling all the other nations, and Tadadaho doesn't, then there is protocols of the people of Onondaga, of all the people of all the five nations, that they can then use these protocols to identify the urgency. And if it is indeed found that Tadadaho did not call the Grand Council when he is supposed to, then he will be removed immediately because the function of Tadadaho is for the protection of all the five nations, of all the united people all together, whether it's the Ganyangahaga, Onondaga, Seneca, or the younger brothers, the Unitas and the Cayugas. Tadadaho is charged with the protection and peace of mind of all the people. So if he doesn't call the Grand Council where it is constituted, he can be removed. On the opposite side of the coin, if you are in Grand Council and he closes it, then he is to be removed immediately. Hence, this is what I related to you that in 1989, it was August, this is the last legal Grand Council because Tadadaho, Leon Shenandoah, closed the Grand Council where it was illegal because he had no reason to constitute any legal closure of that council that had existed for the past 2,000 years, which was dependent on the Five Nations Confederacy having the law function. Think of it as this: the law of functioning. Think of it as your vehicle driving down the road. The law is functioning. Your vehicle is driving down the road. Now, the vehicle has to get from point A to point B. And somebody in the car turns the car off. That will prevent your vehicle from being able to get from point A to point B. This is what Tadadaho did in August of 1989. I won't say Tadadaho because in that legal capacity, Tadadaho can't do that. He can't. Only the person who's holding that position can do that. So the person can be corrupt, but the title cannot. So Leon Shenandoah was corrupt when he closed that council. He did not close that council in the capacity, in his official capacity of Karada. Just the same way that you see today that there's somebody, a guy, holding an official capacity within the non-native society. This guy is named Donald Trump, who is a trivial mentality. He is of infantilism because through his official capacity, he is influencing others into triviality, into anger, hatred, aggression, racism. He is not doing that as his official capacity as president. He is doing that as Donald Trump because official capacity of president can't do that. It's illegal to do that. So this is where you have to know as a person within Constitution, as Constitution is there for you to exercise upon your leaders and upon yourself, you have to know when a person steps outside of their official capacity and then is acting as an individual. So when I'm there as an individual and I start fooling around, telling you whatever, misleading you into ridiculous little infantile communications like tweeting to you saying whatever that misleads you into corrupt thoughts. You got to be able to know when that person is official and when he is not. And so, if you can identify, you're not official, but if the person is put into place, they are official from the day that they are put in there until the day that they die. And so, the moment you see them stepping out and being themselves again, you know that that person is to be removed. Because anybody who puts themselves first, once they are holding official title, is not to be trusted. And when you can't trust somebody, when you don't know their mind, you do not allow them into such a position of influence. Is there anything on that?
When somebody says they're going to close the council, you've always got to remember that when you're talking about the old house, it's not the house. It's not a house. That's why we do the Yehonda Garihodeku. It's from where the sun rises to where the sun sets. So if somebody's closing the house, he's actually forbidding the sun to rise and to set. So right away, he's out of order, completely out of order. And before this man, Adadahu, the Anadadas, would never let it go that far, because it's there the grandmothers and Udiana. Already they know they're in jeopardy because it's a cause there that if you willingly follow, say the people of Judeo or Sabadazo, that I would never, and the women of that whole nation would not ever be able to hold titleship again. So you would wake up and say, hey, you guys, he's losing. We can't allow this to happen. He's not only killing himself, he's putting our heads in a noose. And then they would have peace clan mothers over there or his war chief and say, you can't do this. And actually, for a man to do that, he's committing political suicide. And he's committing political suicide for all the Odianas within his clan, within his house. And I think the Onondagas have about 15 clans. That's a lot of people. So it's like saying the whole, like Donald Trump when he talks. So I don't even like to talk about him because he's a waste of air. It is. It is. You know, he's just a clown that things think. The jester has the crown. But the people like it because that's the kind of world we live in. You know, it's people like the clown. Person that's really serious about the country. And, you know, we can't call down every this American. I guess we can. But just to look at it, in their perspective, is there are a lot of them who are displeased with him. But right now they're in a feeding frenzy. And the people of Central America is who my sympathies go to, because these are the people being called immigrants. And those people have no right to Turtle Island than anybody that crossed the ocean that holds power. But he doesn't want to talk about that. But somebody says, "Hey, Donald, what about the Native American?" Who said there's no such thing anymore? There's no such thing. And then, of course, all the people in his party say, "Yeah," they jump up and down because they don't want to open that door, Pandora's box. I mean, it's open, it's there, but we don't have the political clout as they do. There's a glass ceiling. There's a glass ceiling to the dark-skinned people. And anyways, I don't want to go too far off the track with this thing about somebody say they're going to close down the longhouse. That's what it is. It's from stopping the sun to rise and set, and that's impossible. And all the honors of the whole listening Gaga of the Five Nations already know it's impossible, and already know that man has to be replaced. There's no ands, if, or buts. Is there a 3 warning system coming with Recital?
Not on that, not on the Grand Council.
Not on the Grand Council, because he's basically the head man. In other words, you made the rules, but you're not following them. Yeah.
When it gets to the Grand Council, like what he just said, normally you know that the 3 warning system applies. Now, if the information was brought, again, like in the order that we said, I seen this ship, I come out wire here, it goes to our nation, we send a runner, it gets over there, the Delho deems it, says that, well, no, it doesn't constitute. Well, it's not really in action yet, that process. So if he said no, then if it came back, then to the Mohawks and we said, hey, come on, this is clearly within law, blah blah blah. Then we could have, then it would be in the realm of constituting a first warning. But if it's right in the Grand Council, this is where, your vehicle is running at 100 miles an hour. If you do anything that is in the slightest way jeopardizing, it is not jeopardizing to the point of where it may be able to be fixed. It's jeopardizing to the point where it will break down. It's like knowing you're driving at 100 miles an hour with no oil in your engine. If before you start your car and you know there's no oil in it, and you go to start your car and somebody says, "Hey, don't do that," you can blow your engine. Well, then that's like the first warning. What? Once your car is running and you're going 100 miles down the road, 100 miles an hour down the road, your engine's going to blow. So, in the heat of the moment there, like when it's in action, that 3 warning system does not apply. This is where it depends on if it's in Grand Council, like it was. I'm going to use that very example. I'll set the stage for you. This was August 1998. 1989, sorry. 1989. Just before that, in the coming months, the so-called Warrior Society from here in Ganawagi, that started from here but spread like wildfire throughout the entire Confederacy, they had a hit list out on all the chiefs, all the title holders, an actual hit list. It was going around the territories. Everybody seen it. Everybody knew that the so-called chiefs that were not in the that would not see eye to eye with the Warrior Society, they were on this list, and they were going to be hit. Now, back at that time, Warrior Society was actually trying to kill people. It's not a matter of that to say a hit list and that, well, we're going to talk about removing it. No, there was a hit list. People were actually in the process of killing and being killed. Because 1989, is, I think it's the year after. Uh, Matthew Pike was killed in, was it in 88 or 89? Yeah, it was the casino, but the casinos only came much after. He was either killed in, I think he was killed in 88. But regardless, even if it was after, say it most definitely was not 90. So it was either 88 or early 89. So even if it was after this Grand Council, which it wasn't, but there was killing that the Warrior Society was doing. Whether or not anybody could say that, yes, it was the Warrior Society that went out and killed, it was their actions of what they were pursuing, of all the corruption that they were bringing into the people, into the territories, that got people killed, that they tried to kill us, not just here, but in different places. So, this is the stage. The Warrior Society, which is the band system, created by the band system here in Gunawaga, they put out a hit list on the traditional people. Now, this is the elective system identifying that they're going to take out the traditional system. That's what that was. So, this is the stage here. Uh, Everybody knew there was a Grand Council in August. And I believe they were talking about wampums that were supposed to be returned, and they were supposed to be addressing taxation. Uh, Anyways, everybody knows Grand Council, all the territories know it's coming. It's not something that happens and then people hear about it. Oh, okay, let's go. No, it's something that was known that the people prepared for. This is the one that I told you about, that my mother was on her deathbed and she made my father, my brother, and I go to that Grand Council. My mother died within 2 weeks later, but that's to identify she was on her deathbed, and this is how important Grand Council is, that she sent her husband and her children through this Grand Council when she's on her deathbed. When we get there, that everybody knew that the Warrior Society was going there. This is the reason why also we went there prepared, because the Warrior Society is going there with a hit list to go and bring violence to the Grand Council. We went there to counteract that, to stand against it. As a matter of fact, we are the only ones, my father, my brother, and I, who stood against them in that Grand Council. What happened was they rented buses, 2 buses. There was, like these big, nice big buses, holds like, I don't know how many people, 80 people, something like that. They chartered a bus to go to Onondaga from here, and they brought all Warrior Society, which was all people who don't have clans, all clanless people. And Paul Bellarone led them in to the Grand Council, on the floor of the Grand Council. If you know how the longhouse is in Onondaga, Onondaga is the only house that doesn't have 2 entrances. It has just one entrance for all the people to come into. So just through that one entrance, that everybody was already sitting in council. We were sitting where we sit with the Senecas, the Oneidas, the Yugas sitting where they sit with their backs to the south. Anyways, and the Onondagas with their backs to the east. And the thing about it, where the people lose control, is that back then, as it still is, the women were not in the council. The women's place was not in the council. The women's place with the handsome Lakers is they belong in the mud house. The mud house is the cookhouse. So there was no clan mothers in that Grand Council. No clan mothers from any of those nations, except for ours. And so, anyways, there's no women, no Onondaga women in that house. If there was, they were sitting there. They were just younger girls observing. So the longhouse is a big building, hold lots of people. But there was only a few people, a few on the other side. There was only a few from us. Uh, we were the only Mohawks there. There was no others not sitting there in that peace council. The other ones that did show up showed up under the Warrior Society. So everybody's sitting there, and all of a sudden, Paul Delarone leads in all these clanless people, some Macumbers and some other ones, but mainly Macumber, standing right next to him, clanless. Uh, and that person knows who they are. Anyways, comes in and says to them that if you do not address the issues that we want to be addressed, which was again bingo and cigarettes, that we're going to remove you. Yeah. They're going to remove and put in their people to discuss. How could that happen? That can't happen. What are they going to do? Remove them? And then what? Is Paul Delron going to go sit there and represent? Are these other people going to go and sit there and represent? No, they can't. So you know it was an impossibility of happening. It was all a show. And so, Tadadaho, not Tadadaho, Leon Shenandoah. Well, wait, no, at that moment it was Tadadaho. Tadadaho said, we're going to break for lunch. And so everybody broke. And this is the last time in 1989 that the Handsome Lakers and us were still connected. Because it was at this time that Tom Porter, my father, myself, and my brother Keith, we all went outside because, he was the only other guy from the Mohawks, from Upper Zuston. But Tom Porter was not sitting in the where the titles sit. Tom Porter was sitting behind. So, anyways, Tom Porter, myself, my father, myself, my brother Pete, we all go outside, and we know the circumstances. So we go and we do a pipe ceremony, and this is to, of course, we're working together to make sure to see that peace comes about. This is the last time. From that point, we never had anything to do with any Handsome Lakers after that point. We most definitely never had anything to do with Tom Porter after that. And they will say the same thing. They never had anything to do with us. But that's not true. They did not break off from us. We broke off from them. So after lunch, during lunch, everybody was in their individual camps, each nation. And they were doing their own medicine to resolve this thing. So we come back, and without Tadadaho even bouncing this off in the slightest way, bouncing it off of the Senecas and the Nyagahaga, which are the well, he bypasses all protocols. He doesn't say, what do you think? And then it goes across the fire to see what the Oneidas and the Cayugas think. He bypassed all protocols, which meant that before lunch, he recessed as Tadadaho. But after lunch, he left his title of Tadadaho and he acted solely as Leon Shenandoah and stood up and said, I don't know if he talked with in his own nation, to his own cousin chiefs. I have no idea. But when you know that the people filling those titles there are not even Onondagas, like Irvin Paulus Jr., Owen Lyons, when you know that they're not even Onondagas, even if he did talk with them, you know that it was not legitimate. It was illegal. But we don't know if he talked with them or not. He just stood up and he said that he knew this day would come and that he felt very sorry for them. He's talking to them, the Warrior Society, and he says, he knew this day would come, and instead of having whatever may happen, that instead we're going to close the council. Immediately, my father jumped up. We were the only ones in the Grand Council. My father jumped up and said, "You cannot do that. That we are here. We were here." And immediately, I jumped up. My brother jumped up. We're standing there, ready to stand against the Warrior Society, which is a little kid could stand against the Warrior Society. Look at where they are now. Where are they? There is no Warrior Society. They're a band system construct. And so a little kid could stand against it. What? Thought Leon Shenandoah refused to. Now, at that instance, all the Onondagas, if they were in their capacity, they would have said, "Hey, wait a minute. No, no, no. We can't do this." But they didn't. There was no Onondaga clan mothers in there to say, "No, no, no, you can't do this." So the Onondagas as a whole relinquished their powers. They relinquished their responsibility. Now, when my father and I stood up, there was no Senecas that would stand next to us. They were there, but they would not stand. We were the only ones who said, "No, this council cannot be shut down. It must continue. It's illegal if you shut it down." So here in the well, the Senecas completely relinquished their responsibility. When we said this, we're on the floor of the council in an emergency condition, emergency situation, because the Dahos closed down the council, which means, well, the younger brothers are there also, the Oneidas and the Cayugas, which meant that at that instance, it was their responsibility to voice their position on it, which they did not do. Nobody stood up to say anything. Everybody sat there like the bunch of useless handsome Lakers that they are, just sat there like this and allowed Leon Shenandoah to close the Grand Council of the Five Nations Longhouse Confederacy that had been up and running for the past 2,000 years before that. So all those people, this is where, again, absolutely everybody in the Confederacy broke the Confederacy. Now, you heard earlier, somebody asked a question, I think it was you, I forget what the question was, but it was about, is there anybody else left? Yeah. Something like that. And I said no. No, anybody else can laugh at that. They can laugh in my face and say, when I say, we're the only ones left. They can laugh. Ha 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 ha. When they do that, all you have to do is ask them, what is it you're laughing at? Is it the claim that we are the last ones? Or is it the claim that it could actually get down to being what is just our last one left? If the scenario is possible, and everybody knows it's possible, then you got to ask, if it is possible that everybody put themselves out and somebody brings that to the attention of everybody, wouldn't that constitute something to be addressed? Right there in that council, we said, you can't do this. This is illegal. You shut it down. Everybody is relinquishing, and they're breaking Grand Council. Right there, when you're saying it, it must be addressed. Just the same way that in 2015, when we requested a meeting at the Warrior Society House in Akwesasne, we went there, and to his face, I accused Paul Delarone of misleading the people down the path of the Gunny Guruksa. And like I asked before, if somebody was to say to me in Grand Council, accuse me of leading the people down the path of Gunny Guruksa, or not Grand Council, but in Council, Nation Council, if somebody was to accuse me, what would that mean if I didn't even address it? What would it mean if I just walked away from it? It would mean that that person is substantiating the claim because they didn't deny it. If you are charged with something on the floor of council, you'd have to defend yourself. When I laid those charges on Paul Delaron, I said specifically, you, through your cigarette industry, your cigarette trade, you misled the people down the path of the Gunny Gudux. So there's the charge specific, what the charge is. So right then and there, the person would get up and to say, no, this is not true because of this. So at that time, in 89, when this Grand Council took place, this is the last legal Grand Council. Which means everybody who claims to be, they are liars. They are outright liars today. Because just like right now, I lay my case. The case is there. Anybody prove it to be wrong. Nobody can prove that to be wrong because that is the fact of what happened. So what this means is that when the charges are there and nobody proves it to be wrong and nobody addresses it, they are all compliant. That's democracy. So they all dysfunction under democracy. They all allowed themselves to be counted into what Leon Shenandoah's action was. When he said, we're closing it, they all went along with it. They all accepted it. As soon as that happened, they all became illegal. That means that if there is, well, not if, but 48 titles, there's one title left, Onerat Goa. And even though they duplicated Onerat Goa in different communities, only Onerat Goa in Ganawagi is the only legal title. Because Onerat Goa is the only title that was there standing for law. Everybody else, all other whoever considered themselves to be Mohawk, everyone who considers themselves to be Longhouse in any of the other nations, all acquiesced power to Leon Shenandoah, not to Tadadaho, but to that man who reverted back from being Tadadaho back into being Leon Shenandoah. Everybody, all those 48 titles, all fall here on the brow of the title of Onerat Goa. So there are no legal titles out there in any of the nations. And this, of course, anybody, if there is anybody watching this or anybody hears about this, they may say and bring it back to their people and they'll say, that's all cool. And they'll say, that's all a lie. Prove it to be so. At any time, in any instance, I will relate this truth in any council, like I am doing right now. It is there, it is public for all to see. Anybody who was Longhouse was at that Grand Council. And everybody who was at that Grand Council knows that that Grand Council was shut down. And so how, if you claim to be Longhouse, can you claim to be Longhouse after you allow your Grand Council to be shut down because of a few punk-ass warriors that are there to threaten something that they cannot actually do? Everybody was led by the nose by one man, Leon Shenandoah. But he was in cahoots with Paul Delaron, who was representing Louis Hall, his war chief. Louis Hall wasn't there. Well, Delarong was the one that was there speaking. And there's the challenge. Anybody who sees this, I dare you, I challenge you to show this to Paul Delarong and have him prove to you, tell you that this is not so, what I am saying. He may say, oh, we weren't there, we didn't have a hit list. Big deal. Okay, you didn't have a hit list? You tell me, Paul Delarong, that you did not stand in the middle of that floor and threaten those chiefs, and that those chiefs responded by closing that council. I'll challenge anybody to this. This is about a realization about who we are, not about what yous are about to do to constitute a woman's nation, but is to identify that if you ever compromise, you are not legitimate after that. Nobody has to remove you. You are illegitimate. You illegitimize yourself through actions. And so this is where now, with the constitution of the woman's nation, that yous are not playing a game. This is where it becomes serious business, where literally you go on vacation again, that is it for you. Because you do not have that power, you do not have that right. You do not uphold, that is it for you. Anybody holding those positions, you are expected, it is expected of you, by not just to say law expects it, all the faces yet beneath the earth expect this for you, from you. They expect you to stand within law. Because if you don't, if a chain is broken, let's imagine two vehicles, one vehicle pulling the other one, connected by a chain. If the link right at the one that's connected to the vehicle that's towing, if that one breaks, what happens to the process of towing that other vehicle? What happens if the link that's connected to the vehicle you're towing breaks? What happens if the link right in the middle of the chain breaks? Does it matter which link breaks? The process breaks, and that vehicle you're towing will not get to where it's going. So your faces yet beneath the earth are dependent on you being human and standing up against anything, which, when you know the formation of the league, that Tadadaho, of all people, was not a whimpering pansy, was not threatened by anybody. When you put somebody in that position that you know is not man enough to hold that position, you know that you are compromising. And so the people who put somebody who is not qualified are the ones that are the ones responsible. And so the entire Onondaga Nation is responsible for that corruption that Leon Shenandoah done in 1989. Clan Mullers, his fellow chiefs, which weren't even Onondagas, and all the Onondaga people for allowing it to happen, for allowing weasels, warrior society, to even come into their territory, to even walk into their longhouse. Those are weasels. They are not men. They are not women. If here in Ganawagi, I had to stand against the warrior society, then Taradaho is expected to stand against the warrior society. A man does not back down from what his responsibility is. We stood there in that council, but what could my father, my brother, and I do once Taradaho says, oh, it's shut down, and they all get up and they walked out. They actually left the warriors standing in their house when they got up and walked out. What kind of man does that? That's not a man. What kind of women allow that? Those are not women. Hence, right now, All titles of the Onondagas, including Taradaho, are here because this is where we done roll call at the summer solstice at the total solar eclipse 2017 at our uh, annual law recital, which is to be held every 5 years. When the law is recited, you can do anything. You can install a chief. You can call upon all the chieftainship titles. You can name babies, even if it's not when it's at the doing. When the law recital is in place, all things can be done because all the law is spoken at that time. And so at that time, when we done roll call here, it's because we called back all five great houses where they belong, where they are safe within law, because if there is a bunch of phonies claiming to be something like in Onondaga, like in Grand River, like in any of the other communities, they're claiming to be something that they are not. The person or nation or people who know what law is, it is your responsibility to take that which belongs to law. And so we went and we took all the titles. Now there's people in those nations who will say, you didn't take nothing. You got our titles, and no matter what you did, doesn't matter. Then, what is protocols of law? Ask anybody if you ever have the opportunity to be near them. Then what are protocols of law in those scenarios? Just because that person is saying that it's not true does not make it true. And also, just because I am saying it's true does not make it true. But what makes it true is what can be substantiated in the public arena. And that public arena existed at that instance in that Grand Council when they shut it down. So this example will show you that no matter what you think, you could be still walking in this world thinking that you are within law and that you have the right, and you could be doing all kinds of things. Doesn't matter. Within the law of creation and within all creation, you are recorded. You are recorded as being outside of law. And the moment it's recorded, it doesn't matter if there's somebody there to like a cop, give you a ticket. Oh, you're outside of law. Here's the ticket. It doesn't matter. Because how the law works is that you applying it to yourself. And when you don't, because it doesn't suit you, and again, another example I'll give, like here in this house, when Carol and Cheyenne said, let's not apply law, let's just move on. The moment that they said that, they were canceled out. You can cancel yourself out. You're not going to be sent to jail for that. You're not going to get a ticket. Doesn't matter. How is it recorded? How and where is that recorded? It's recorded by the one or the nation or the people that are still within law. Now, if nobody's within law and you're the last one to break law, put yourself out, that is recorded also. Where is it recorded? In yourself, in your DNA. You are lying in front of your mother. And anybody who lies in front of their mother, he may not be stricken down or hit with a ruler or slapped or hit with a whip or with the red whip. That isn't done. They just no longer have access to their mother. And while they're alive, because they got millions of dollars, they don't care if they no longer have access to their mother. But where it is recorded is here, in your own DNA. And where will that matter? Where will it be applied to you? Anybody know?
In the offspring?
The offspring. It will be when you die. The transition to where you're going and where your offspring are going. Because if you put yourself outside of the law, let's say, use her as an example, she's got a little boy. If she puts herself outside of law, she's banished from the territory. What happens with her son? From the territory. What happens with her son? Was honest and said, will you take care of my son? If they don't, their next generation, their offspring, are banished to the same fate as they. Which is where today you got a bunch of people who are claiming to be Longhouse. How could they possibly be Longhouse? You're not going to see. How many of you have ever seen a leaf right here, stationary in the air? No, because a leaf on its own would do that. In order for you to see a leaf stationary in the air, it has to be connected to a branch, to a twig, to a branch to the base of the tree to the trunk to the roots firmly planted in the ground. But if the parents, before this leaf even comes around, hacks away at those roots and that tree is down, can that leaf say, is that leaf going to be there in the sky? No, it won't be. So all these people today claiming to be Longhouse, they're all just a bunch of liars. They don't know what Longhouse is. What they are, like here in Ganawagi, you got the Warrior Society, the Hatchet-Makers. All they are is clubhouses. That's all they are. And those clubhouses are owned by the elective system. Because again, in the summer of '90, who negotiated on behalf of that Warrior Society? The Warrior Society, it was Frank Nadaway and Donnie Martin, again, who Donnie Martin is nobody anyway. But Frank Nadaway from the 207, from the Warrior Society, went to uh, uh, the Mayor Joe Norton and gave him the right, gave him the power to negotiate on their behalf in the pond. Now here they were supposedly fighting against the Canadian Army, which was a lie. But they're fighting against the Canadian Army, and then at the negotiations, if they're fighting against the Canadian Army, who are they negotiating with? Who's on that side? Who's negotiating for the Army? It's that Queen, right? Okay, so now, if they give Joe Norton, the mayor of Ganawagi, the right to represent them, who does the mayor of Ganawagi work for? The Queen. So, in those negotiations, who was actually negotiating? The Queen. Who was she negotiating with? With herself. So, when everybody sees those iconic photographs of some negotiations in the Pines, you don't know what you're looking at. You think you're looking at a negotiation, but it was a complete lie.
Minutes ago, you made that scenario about this young boy and his mother leaving him, which is an example. Now, if his mother, she already knew she broke the law. He knows that. But she doesn't want her boy out of the circle. Now, if we're angry at her, the woman, it could be any woman, and we don't accept that boy, we're out of the circle. Always remember, we got to take that boy in, or a little girl. It could have been a little girl. It could have been a bunch of them. But they're not a bit. They're not. They're not. They cannot be charged under the same laws that their parents were because they're little. And that's why we even took in non-native people. And today, that's what's making me sick. Because sometimes there's a meeting that says only Oklahoma are allowed. How can Oklahoma be allowed? They say, well, nobody ever walked into the Grand Council. Jacques Cartier was there, Thomas Jefferson, all the founding fathers of the so-called United States, British representatives. At that time were allowed in because the law was so strong. They were just being privy witnesses to what was something they'll never see, and they made their laws according to that because it was so strong. And now, what do you do when you get a strong law from somebody? Eliminate them and say that you made this law. There'll always be hundreds of thousands of people of the 5 nations, but how many of them are following the law? Very few. So when you come in, that door is to be open to anybody that's willing to come under the great white pine, the tree of peace. Everybody is given that chance to live under the tree of peace. So it's we cannot turn down these people's children. And for the woman or man that walks is actually one heck of a person who, I mean, they have committed a crime against themselves. They didn't commit a, yeah, they're the ones that tried themselves and got them. You didn't kick, you didn't get kicked out. You kicked yourself out the minute you decided you were going to leave the law. That's why it's so explained so well. That's why your grandmother would also try as much to uh, to convince you to change your mind, because if they didn't change their mind, they're going with them. So it's not really walking alone. So that there would be one deliberation. There must have been nice to be around at that time to see real cool heads, smart heads, and women. And if the Onondaga women were not present at the time you were there, there wasn't, then that actually was not a law that the Daho could sanction. He had no right. So there's a lot of people that broke the law that day, and I wish I had been there, but I wasn't. But at that time, in like '89, when there was all that trouble after the shootings, Matthew Pike and all that, I was home here, and somebody approached me and said, "Well, you're good. We're making a lacrosse team league in Aguasaki." I looked and said, "You want to participate?" So as a lacrosse player, I went, but I didn't know the rules. And it was only when I got there, they put me on the team. But I knew the guys, and it was mixed. It was non-natives and other teams, but we knew these guys since we were as big as this little boy. And we played in the games, and they said it was trying to get the community back together. And the game of war, as we call it, lacrosse, the Wa'adaru, this time became the game of peace. And we played this game where men who couldn't talk to each other had to come out on the floor and play. It was a bit rough. At that time, I would not have wanted to be a white man because they were like the buffer zone now. But I give them credit too for staying. They stayed with us. I knew these guys, and actually that year we won. We won the whole thing. But I think the whole of the Russian people won because you had to shake the hand of the person that defeated you in this game. So there was men who, I guess, at one time, because I don't know the names of everybody, were shooting at each other, had to walk over to you and shake your hand. And some of us weren't even from there, but when you're from the Confederacy, you are from there. But we were not directly involved in what happened. But yet, whatever happens in the Confederacy falls in everyone's hearts. If one guy pulled the trigger, we all pulled the trigger. What we're defending. But it was quite a. I actually felt good, not because we won, but I seen this game work in the other direction. It wasn't a game of war; it was a game of peace. And we got to keep continuing opening those doors and getting back to Yoyanagaya. You won't hear that. The old path. Right now, the road is paved. If the road is paved, you are not walking on the path. You are walking on something that's foreign to this nation. You got to be walking like this lady. I'm wearing shoes. You are walking with bare feet. That's your walking in the path. So we got a lot of things to do. We got a lot of things to work on, and don't stop. I I don't want to stop. I hope not to stop because it's we're starting back on the right path. We always were, but like I said earlier, there was a time when it was hiatus, and that's going to happen all the time. But I hope it doesn't stop again because I'd like to finish this, and it's a personal thing to finish for me because there's some things that happened to me before that if it never happens again, I'm out of the game forever. And I want to finish what I'm doing. I'm not sick inside. There's something that I don't know. I don't know. I'm like so much better now. It's unbelievable. But it's a whole bunch of circumstances. I think, like we say, the stars lined up right, and I'm there. And I say, let's finish. Last week at the writing of when you were thinking of missing Thursdays, remember we said we won't have anything. And I said, okay, we can, maybe you won't have the Zoom, but let's write it out though. Because it's very important for me to finish. Because again, I've gained a wisdom since the hiatus. I've learned something. And all you people sitting here today, every time, you don't miss a great law. It's like missing a series of a great show you like to watch. And if you miss one part, it might be the most valuable part. So every time you hear the Recital go, you say, hey, I thought this way 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and now as I'm getting more educated within the law, that I'm seeing a clearer, vision of the law. And the whole thing about and counseling, that it's a here, this across the fire, is it opens your eyes to a different light. You see something from a different light. Now go.
Hi, my name is Silim. I was just wondering a few questions about what you just told us. In 1989, I'm wondering, did the clan women had their council after this happened? And I'm curious as to that because I thought you had told us that after the clan of the woman and the man, and then it always comes back to the woman. And if it didn't do that, well, then whatever that was decided, then it must have been decided under the man's domination. And if the woman decided to follow the man, when I thought earlier you had told us it would be the man following the woman. So that I'm mixed up there a bit. The other thing I was wondering, okay,
Okay, we'll deal with one thing at a time. Don't forget, don't put 10 things out, one thing at a time. So, if it's question anyway. Okay, 1989, we're hundreds of years into a genocide. So being hundreds of years into a genocide, it's not all of a sudden in 1989 everything just fell apart. Things were falling apart way before that. The injection of the poison, the religious poison, handsome lake. With it's even a wrong thing to identify again. Handsome Lake is Handsome Lake because the word Handsome Lake is actually a title. It's a chieftainship title. It's Ganaterio within the Seneca Nation. Beautiful lake. Calm, calm lake. It implies a bunch of things. Anyways, but they changed it into a religious thing where now today, what I call it, what its proper title is, is it's the Lawbreakers Repentance Code. Because they are all lawbreakers that follow this Handsome Lake thing because within it you can repent. Like a religion, like Christianity. If you can repent, you're going to understand what this implies. It implies that if it's me, I am doing a wrong to somebody. I do a wrong to Wayagirdo. Now, come along at the midwinter, I can repent. And when you know what the process of repent is, it's through their white dog ceremony. Now, their white dog ceremony today has evolved into what they call their basket ceremony. But their basket ceremony comes from this white dog ceremony. And what they do in this white dog ceremony is you take your, like what we do for the shoot the sun, you take your tobacco, you put your words into it, but for them, it's their sins. Whatever their sin was. So if it was me, I done a harm to Wayagirdo, here's my sin, I put it in there, and I tie it to this white dog, and then we kill the white dog. And killing the white dog, the spirit of the dog is supposed to rise to the Creator and take your sins to the Creator. And then you are absolved because you repented. It's Christianity. What does that do for Wayagirdo?
Not much.
What does it do?
Nothing.
Nothing. Not even not much.
Yeah.
Not much implies it does something.
Yeah. I know.
But it does nothing for the wrong that I done to Wayagirdo. Now let's say if it's I go to his house and I bust all the windows in his house. Okay, well I repent. In order for that repentance to be legitimate, I have to stop breaking his windows. Okay, so I stopped breaking his windows. I repented. I am clean. I am absolved.
No.
And then I can do it again. And I can repent again. Just like the fools in Christianity or any other religion that has a repentance where you can repent to your God, but to the actual person you violate, you don't even ever have to talk to them. What do people do when they go to church for somebody they robbed off of somebody today? Do they go and apologize to them? Do they go and make restitution? Not at all. What do? They go into some little cubicle and talk to some homo dressed in a robe and they apologize. They don't even apologize. They just confess. They confess their sin. It does nothing to the wrong that is done. It does nothing to repairing the windows that I broke in Wayagirdo's house. What? I'm absolved. So I can go through this world being absolved, sit in the ceremony that Wayagirdo is going to have to sit in because if he's handsome like you, he's going to have to accept that I don't go fix his windows. He's going to have to accept that I just repented. What does that do? Exactly. It causes a disease to fester in the people. So anybody that is stupid enough to adopt a thing or participate in something that is repentance for you, for a wrong that you've done, you are causing a societal breakdown where eventually, at some point, it's going to explode. When is it going to explode? In the winter time, when he's going to need his windows to protect him from the elements. It may not explode right now, but in time it will. So, in what you're saying, or what your question is, Didn't they have the Women's Council going to go back to them? No. After this long period of time of Handsome Lake seeping into our people, they have been away from the law for a very long time. Ganawagi, and now only our house is the only place throughout all 5 nations Confederacy territories. We are the only ones that are not connected to the corruption of Handsome Lake, the Lawbreakers Repentance Code, and by extension, because they are all apolitical, not connected or supporting the foreign imposed genocidal system of the elected band system. We are the only house in all the Confederacy territories. And on that, I'll challenge anybody. Anybody's going to say, you're a lawyer, we're here, prove it. Prove that you're there. I'll prove that you are not there. Through law. And it's not that I think that I'm so good. It's that I know what law is and I follow law. Where there's the example that we gave earlier of Carol and Cheyenne, which is just what? How long ago was that? 4 years ago? Just 4 years ago. Imagine. Let's take any two of you women that are here and you say you're pledging to the law and you're holding supposed clan mother titles, and then you say, when you get into a bind and you find that you are guilty of breaking law, then you say, let's just not apply law. Let's just move on. Oh, what is that? That is the equivalent of Handsome Lake. That's the equivalent of not of even being worse, because they didn't even say, let's repent. They didn't even say that. They just said, let's not apply law. Let's be lawless. When you say let's not apply law, you're saying let's be lawless. This is what Carol and Cheyenne said when they were here, when they said let's not apply law. So this is just 4 years ago. So imagine in '89 how far away the people were, because they've been away from law. In all actuality, over 150 years. Since the last 150 years, it's everybody's attempt to get back into law, get back into order of the longhouse. So they may have said, open a door and said, let's get back into the longhouse, stood at the door, looked in and said, nah, it's too tough because here there's law. Let's pretend we're in the longhouse. Let's stand at the entranceway, not actually enter, and call ourselves longhouse. This is where everybody is today. And for people here in Ganawagi, for everybody to understand, that means everybody who calls themselves longhouse, the Warrior Society, the Mohawk Trail, they are all under the elective system. Joe Norton, the mayor, is their leader, is their chief, their representative. Legally, we have the documentation where the Handsome Lakers actually said in 1997, when there was a reunification process that was happening between the Warriors. We had said to the 207 that, well, we should approach the Mohawk Trail. They agreed. So Kenneth Deere, whoever the heck he is, he doesn't carry a clan, but he was representing all the clanless people in the Warrior Society. So it was him and myself that went over to the Handsome Lakers, the Mohawk Trail, and asked them if they would join us in a unification process. They gave us a letter. They actually gave us a written letter where they said they cannot join us because they are apolitical. And until such a time that the entire community and the elective system is participating, they will not be able to participate. So right in their letter, they identify that Joe Norton, the mayor of Ganawagi, represents them because they're apolitical. And until the Band Council is apart, they will not participate. So the Handsome Lakers actually gave us a roadmap showing us, proving to us that yes, they admitted they're under the ban system. 207, like we said earlier, when they were at war, supposed war during the summer of 90, they gave the same mayor, Joe Norton, the right to represent, which means they're under the ban system. So warrior society, supposed fighting against Canadian Army, is a lie. Is a complete lie, and everything that all their kids think afterwards that they were so great or this happened or that happened is a complete lie. When you know everybody was so proud that Lasagna was standing there up against the army. But you didn't know. Nobody knew who it was because he had a mask on. If he took his mask off, you would know that he was not a Mohawk. He was a descendant of Mohawks, but his mother was Italian. So really, who was up against the Canadian Army in the summer of 90 were the Italians from New York. That's who was up against the Canadian Army. Lasagna is a good friend of mine. I would defend that guy to the death. But I also got to speak the truth. The truth is that his mother was Italian, and he was in Longhouse, and he was in Warrior Society. He fell victim to a circumstance that his mother asked him to go in and get his brother. She did not want his brother, which was either Terry or Tracy, they were twins, they're my age. It was one or two, I can't remember which one. One of them, at that time, was actually in the Canadian Army. And they sent him to Afghanistan while Lasagna was here on our side fighting against the Canadian Army. So two brothers were fighting against each other. Which all of it wasn't true. It was all a big show, a big charade, where you know that, what do they call that? They got three cups and they put a ball in one, they move it around. Whatever that charade is, that's what they were playing. But whenever anybody plays that game, you know the person who's running the game is a cheat because they actually don't have that ball in there. And the reality of who was the Mohawks, there was no Mohawks. It was all show. Because all the people who were representing them, the guy that they had from Alcazosny, Loran, he did not carry a plan. No, Loran, I have great respect for him because he comes from the one house. But I will not tell the lie. I will represent. And so even him being there in the summer of 90 wasn't what you think. Because he speaks Mohawk, people think that he's representing Mohawks, but he didn't. He wasn't. And everybody thought that warrior society, supposed to be Longhouse, was speaking for themselves. They weren't. Their mayor, Joe Norton, was representing them because none of them were Longhouse. None of them. So anybody can project anything that they want. And then when you hear law, you might say, well, didn't they have a women's council? No. They were all a bunch of monkeys in a three-ring circus, all being trained to do what they were carrying out. So you said you had another question?
Well, it was in reference to that. It was just to bring it to another date, which is in 2015. If the same bunch of people that decided to vote out the clan woman, how could the male council vote out the clan mother if they recall themselves matrilineal when the matrilineal, the prior, is the woman, and then the woman should be they would not vote themselves out unless they thought they were out of law, and they could not just go under the whatever they decided to to use the word vote. It's just right there. They're getting out of their law, and to choose to have the woman out of the council.
Okay, your wording on that isn't precise, but I know what you mean. And again, the people who voted for this in 2015, it was the elected band system. And it wasn't known to the people. They did not put this out to the people. There was 11 of them. These 11 apostles, they voted within themselves to change the electoral code. Now, when you know that the electoral code is based on a membership, and at the time, 2015, there was supposedly a membership committee working on a membership, right? So he was there, supposedly working on a membership, thinking that, okay, we're going to make a law for Ganawagi, which was actually undermined. He was undermined by these 11 apostles who changed the electoral code, which changes the membership. But this is the elective system. So the elective system are a bunch of hoo-haws anyways. They don't know anything about anything. They're not even Mohawks. Because, again, if they're the ones who vote to get rid of Mohawk mothers, you know that none of them have Mohawk mothers. So none of them are Mohawks. So the reality of what happened there in the ban system is it's the Canadian government creating laws through their puppets within the elective system here. Also, that when you know that the Hanson Lakers identify themselves as being apolitical, it means they recognize the elective system as their leadership, that the mayor represents it politically, spiritually, in all things. So, all those Hanson Lakers, none of them have claims. They're all Hanson Lakers because if they were in law, none of them would be able to be in the positions that they are in. So they have to be in something, pretending they are the ones at the door to the longhouse, not able to go in because inside is law. So the longhouse is empty. There's only a couple of people sitting in the longhouse. And all the lawyers are outside pretending. And you have to get in. You're trying to get into the longhouse. You got to go through all those lawyers. You got to figure out how to navigate lawyers, which is in every native community. Wherever there is elective system, the community is overrun by lawyers. Wherever there is elective system. So those people that follow it, you know that they are corrupt. They are not who the people that they claim to be are. They are out for money.
I'm glad you asked that question. You said what you said. This has been a long time. I've been waiting to answer this. I put my hand up because I was on that committee. I wasn't supposed to be on it because it was supposed to be women if we were running it according to the Ganesha way now, but it wasn't. It was band council. But I had a person who talked me into it, and it was a woman. She said, you know, everybody in Kahnawake. I said, I really don't want to touch it because I thought, well, I'm kind of running away, and I don't run away. So I knew I was in the crosshairs of everybody. So I went in anyways, and we had these debates on accepting people back and not accepting people back. And, there was a criteria, and I was just following the criteria. I wasn't making the law. The law was made. And I thought, you know, then somebody wanted, I think you needed 4 grandparents, and some people only had 3. And then through debate and everything, you know, people were trying to change a 3 into a 4. And yet there was some people who got on the band list and got away. I know who they were because I seen them every day. I would see her every day. I don't know who she is. But this person got on the band list because they had 5. So they were over by 1, according to the law. But some people didn't like you. Well, me, if I had to go through that system, I'd never get in because my own brothers and sisters don't like me. But that's their problem because they're in the system. So anyway, time goes on, and then things start getting hot and heavy. And of course, this committee was put up because a year ahead before elections. So everybody wanted to get back in. So they didn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. So they said, make a committee. And when anybody goes to the band council, don't come see me. Go while you get us there. Paul Deere and I were the only two. And Paul Deere knows I respect this man. He's out there. And I said, Paul, we shouldn't even be sitting here. He says, what are they on? And I told the ladies, we shouldn't be sitting here. And some women said, well, you have a lot of opinions we like. It's all right, I'll stay. That wasn't, I could have ran out the door in a minute, but like I say, I can't run. And so they had this election where people were getting in. And I said, I never won anything in band council that meant anything. So I get in there, and somebody put my name up, put up a bunch of names. They had a vote, and they said, you're one of them. And I said, okay. And there was a woman sitting there that hated my guts. Not me. She hated my mother because my mother knew something. And when I was chosen, because she was a Mohawk Kaniga speaker, and so was I. And I turned and looked at her. And I said, yo, niwagatsanoni ona wadu skatna janitskoda. I'm so happy we can now sit together. And then she stood right up. You should see the look on her face. And she said, I will never start laughing. I said, you're in for a long ride while you get about. I think she thought I'd resign. You know? But I said, no, I can't resign. So anyway, we go through this progress, this, that, and the other thing. And there was so the women that married out, they say they married non-natives, said they were kicked out. And the one woman left, and she's still alive. She must be in her 92, 93. Her record came up. And she said, yeah, okay, she married out according to this law. She has to leave, blah, blah, blah. I mean, she left too. She left. And when she was coming back, well, I was asked by different people. They said, why are you there? Seeing you're the only one that speaks Kanyankeha, you ask her this question, that question. There was a bunch of questions. And you telling me to ask questions because they couldn't speak the language. These are the women that banished, well, not them exactly, but the political arm that banished her. Can't speak the language. She's 90. She was about 85 at the time. Come back, and she knew me. We're good friends because I have so much respect for her. And I said, okay. And then they're all waiting for these questions. She comes in. There's this frail old lady. And I'm like, this is not going to happen. This is not the script that was given. So when she came in, she was afraid. She was looking around, and right away said, what's going on? Anyway, she's got that smile, that lovely teeth, lovely woman, and you could tell she's been through many wars. I'm glad you're home. And I went over there and I hugged her. She was shaking. Don't worry. And then I went and I sat back down. And I could see these eyes going around the room. And she left, and everybody said, thank you, hypocrites. We're so glad you're back. And I was so afraid. I said, why did you? And then they came after me. How come you didn't ask her this? How come you didn't ask her that? I said, I have no right to ask her those things. I said, she is Kanyaka Haga from the get-go. I'd be a fool to utter those words to her. I'm talking to my mother. She went to school with my mother. And my mother was banished that way too. My mother she's a clan, both sides of her family. But she lies in the graveyard today, Protestant cemetery, because she's like, what do they call the excommunicating? So she lies in that grave as, what do they call them? Bill C-31. She's a Bill C-31, and I just laugh. That's why when I hear there's a bill on the table, I say, well, they must be trying to get rid of some pure woman, or usually the women. They're only after the women. And we get in there, and it was getting more contentious, and then this person kept coming after me. And they did something. One person that really hates me, and even today, she just walked in one day and she had everybody's clan, and she put mine on the smart board. Just my mother's side, which for me, it was the best thing that ever happened that day. Was I looked at my family tree even before Confederation. We're down that Norton line, Morris. And there was one name that it was really, what was his name? So I says, well, what's fool? We got to have some French blood in our family. You know, the French been here all. So, anyways, I after they went through my lineage, and then they didn't even have my father's yet from Gunnesadog, because Gunnesadog won't give it out. I said, okay. So I needed 4 grandparents, and me, I had like 25, 26. It had to be an even number. And so now I'm like, you've brought me to the fight. I said, okay. To this lady, I says, no, let's put your lineage up on board. You know, I'm an open book. You know, go ahead. I mean, and she said, there's no way I'm putting mine up there. Well, I said, I have enough grandparents. If anybody wants, I said, I'm ready to loan out a few. And that way they adjourned the meeting, and I knew stuff was going to happen. And people start calling me. They would always call me when I get home and said, well, you did. I'm so glad what you said. I was afraid to say it. Well, I said, all my life I've been in the crosshairs of somebody. But I said, I can't run away. I said, I'm so used to being the 8 ball, which is a good 8 ball. You know why the 8 ball is good? The number 8, it never ends. It's infinity. So I love being the 8 ball. Anyways, this thing went on, and then of course, the elections were coming up, and they put us on hiatus. So everybody got back in that was supposed to get in, I guess. And the chief, who was Mike DeLille, he announces one day on the radio, he says, I absolve the Council of Elders today. So I'm sitting there, and it's okay, I'll wait a couple of days. You know, everybody, I mean, Mike and I, we're kind of friends. Yeah, we are friends. But the politics separates us. Like the Zidonzadio says, he knows some people there, and there's a nod. But I'm not going to break bread with you because I know what you're thinking, you know. Anyways, he said this, and then I called him 2 days later. I says, I'd like to talk to the Grand Chief. And he says, well, good, can I help you? I said, yeah. I said, Mike, you don't have, I said, you know what you did the other day? I said, you just became the king of Ganawaga. I said, you can't absolve us. You have no right. I said, the people put us in, the people. So I says, in the election, put our case back up and say, do you want these elders to stay or go? Which they never did. They just absolved us. But officially today, I am still on the elders committee. So I said, well, for me, like I'm a numbers man. And I said, we were getting a few bucks to get called down. So I said, let's double it. And they said, oh, we can't do that. I said, I'll ask. So they came in one day because they had somebody who was their portfolio, and I says, well, we'd like a raise. And they said, oh, no, that's too much. And that's when, just a few weeks later, they kicked us out. But I was kind of wanting to get pushed to the side. And they got in, and I won't mention the price, but they said we were too expensive, but they were back in now, so they're good. So instead, they gave themselves. It was a 3 year right chieftainship or title, command council. They amongst them, the 12, gave themselves 4 years. So basically, they gave themselves a $50,000 raise without consulting the people. And I don't even know today if the people know. So, I'm so glad you mentioned this, and I've never had a chance to say this. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, and Mike DeLille, I have to approach him very soon, now that it's fresh in my mind, and say, Mike, I want to sit in on the next session of the Elders Committee and see what he said. And then I could let it go further. But this is what happened that time, and it was heavy. People were calling me down. They actually made a cartoon of me. The guy's the chief now, and he had me in like Klansman's, the hood, and I thought it was pretty cute. It was you see the other side of it, and I said, well, I am a Klansman. I do have a clan, but I'm not the kind of Klansman they wanted to make. They wanted me to make me a racist, and I'm not a racist because people don't know me. Very people in this. I mean, most of you don't know because you're not from here, but the ones from here, and especially Vanuatu, they don't know me. I said, what kind of a racist would open a school in Africa, Niger, Africa? And I got the proof, and I got the people, and we opened a black school for children. And they asked me to get on board, and I says, go ahead. I used to give 1 year of one salary for a week. We gave our money. So most of them were Quebecois. And I said, that's okay, I'll do it. And a person that got me involved brought some pictures back, and I got them at the house. I'll bring them tomorrow. There's these black Africans. And there was one boy, he had a cross on his, and she knew my stand on religion. And she said, well, you're going to change your mind? I said, no, that little boy. I says, were you ever hungry? She said, no. I says, they fed him and then they put that on his neck. He just got a passport to a free meal. But there's no such thing as a free meal. I says, I love him. I want him to eat. I want all kids to eat, whether they're Catholics, Protestants, Jewish, Palestinian, or, any religion that you could name, as long as they're eating, that's I love it, because later they could change. So this thing goes on, and when they said it's over, I says, oh, okay, good for me. And then a lot of the people were actually afraid of the pressure they were getting under, because they were threatened. And me, my phone, I never changed my phone number. Nobody ever called me. But I knew I was right, and I says it was kind of like a relief. I just sat back and I said, well, somebody else takes the brunt. But again, they never had this election, so everybody out there that's listening to this, there's probably somebody from Band Council, and people on my the committee at the time, there was a bunch of us, that you got to remember, you're still on that committee, and if you want to do something about it, just give me a call and I'll go. I'm getting stronger as I'm getting into the law. I always was strong, but in another way was my temper. But now I don't have a temper. I don't have a temper because I said I was only hurting myself when I had a temper. First of all, I wasn't in law. But that's what got me to go into law, and it opened my eyes, and I said, well, if I would have made one decision I was kind of asked, or we were asked, I would have broken law. So I've broken other laws. I mean, I've had to go to court for it, in jail too, but I get myself in, I get myself out. But it's nothing serious. I mean, I got no blood on my hands. Anyways, thanks for bringing that up, because now I got something off my chest. And I'm ready for any challenge. In fact, I'm up for a challenge within the next. That's why I go to the mail often. I'm waiting for a letter that's going to get me. I'll have to go to court, but we got to take the Gaswanta with us. And I don't know who's going to come with me. I could represent myself, but I I know I'll win. I know I'll win under the Gaswanta, and because there's nobody under it anymore. Very few people, like we keep talking. There's a lot of Mohawks. There's not too many Gahaga, and the Gaswanta was initiated, but there was no such thing as Mohawks when the Gaswanta was made. So the original owners of the Gainrasiragoa or Gaswanta Diohad is us. And I'm not saying just me and Gajik Zaviva. Anybody who's still Ganyan Gahagan thinks that way. You know, and then maybe they'll say, well, what I get is used to being in the crosshairs. I put myself in the crosshairs. That's just the thing about it. I haven't had a good argument in a fight with the law in a long time. And it's time. But it's going to be interesting. We'll know if there's any law in this country. We'll know. So we have to represent ourselves. We can't have nothing against the white man, but once you hire on to him, you've hired on to be judged under his laws, and I can't win. I got no chance. Now go.
My last question was about because I work a lot with energy and I realize the importance of things that gives energy. Talked in the last few days about your what you wear on your head with the how it's got antennas and it helps you even yourself. You only wear it when under certain circumstances. But I'm wondering, all those so-called chief in the band council, they are wearing those, and where did all those 96, like 48 for the woman and 48 for the man, went throughout? And is it just the genocide just canceled out all that? Like there must be a continuity somewhere about that. And if they're wearing those, well, and if they're not even from um, their mothers are not even from your nation, how could they be? Um, how could it even have the energy of a sacred? Um, I don't remember the name that you call that Gustola. Yeah, that was my question. Gustola.
There is a continuity. It's right here. This is the only place where it's left. What you're saying, uh, don't ever let me hear you say band council and chiefs together in the same sentence. When you're referring to band system, don't even call them band council because council implies that there is some kind of council or there is not. You identify band system, and the people that are in there are not put in the way that chiefs are put in. Chiefs are appointed by the women. The people that you're referring to are under the white man's democracy. They're voted in, which means they run for office. What happens when somebody runs? What happens when somebody runs for a position? What happens to them? Not what they should. What happens to them? They're canceled out. They cancel themselves out. So you know this already. So you do have the answer to your own question. None of those people are our people. So they sure as heck are not going to have any Gustolas. They ain't going to have anything that is ours. You go and look at it. If you go online and look at the Ganawagi band Band system. Look at their pictures and try to find the native in there. Try to find one that looks native. Well, right now, the current mayor, he looks, but he's an actor. He looks like, but he's white on the inside. He acts white. He's not native. So, you know that these people are not our people, so there should never be any kind of references to them to what our is our identity. Uh, the let's see what else did you say? Yeah, the continuance to this is here, and the way that it is here right now is not in accordance with the great law of peace. This is here under emergency provisions, which we will get into later, which I will explain later. I think we've already explained it a bunch of times here and there. There is access to different videos online where we identify how I got this stolen and the terms and conditions under which I work. Let's see, what else is in your question? I think that covers your question. There is no process that they follow. Even if they identify that there's a ban law, like there's a membership law, membership code, do they follow it? No, they do not follow it. So they are, like in any democracy, they are lawless people. Anybody in democracy is lawless because, as you see, like with in the so-called United States, Donald Trump, again, is not acting in the capacity of president. He's acting in the capacity of Donald Trump as his personal. So his personal is compromising everybody that believes or relates to themselves as being so-called Americans. So anybody that's partaking in a voting system anywhere is subjecting themselves to the next regime. Even if you have a constitution to the Constitution, to their interpretation. Hence, where everybody in the so-called United States right now, they're living under hypocrisy, they're living under racism, they're living under a rapist, under a molester, they're living under a male-dominant female oppressor. Now, you would think that that would be in your Constitution not to allow such a corrupt person to hold a position. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the law. Democracies vote, or any democracy is by nature a voting system. Any voting system, there is nothing that is solid from one election to the next. You are always subjected to the interpretations of the person that is put into place. So it's all lawless, all lawless. Does that answer your question? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to.
And I just want to say, I think you heard about 2 or 3 months ago, the band council went to Buffalo, New York, to try and take back the 50% law, which everybody's under now. They got influenced by the Americans that have to be 50% of any native community to get over the border now. You have to get a community. So that was the time. It was like so funny. Let's go get everybody. So I am considered 50% native. Yet my mother's Oklahoma, my father's Oklahoma, their mothers, grandmothers, all the way down the line. So if I'm 50%, that means que então seria 50% according to their eyes. Now this was going good. It was funny, like we got them. But now the government is starting to say, well, you think Donald Trump, they said we want them to rescind that law and change it now so there's no blood quantum. Once you give the American government, you gave him this, you agreed with this, You think he's going to give it back to you? No way. He's going to cut you down more. Because now every one of their children they're down to, say we was 50, they're down to a quarter. Well, my son, he has no clan. But he's like Stuart's sons. He's Rotahiyoni hung about the neck. And when he was born, his mother, she was a great woman. I delivered him. I actually delivered a baby. I took him out, and I've been in iron work all my life. I've been hundreds of feet in the air. I was never scared, but when that baby's head, when he made his turn to come out, I couldn't back out now. But I asked the doctor and everybody in the room, I said, is it possible nobody speak, because most of them are French Canadian, and her parents were in the room. And he came out. So she told them in French, and they agreed. Came out, and he almost went through my hands because it was full of blood and everything else. That it doesn't bother me, blood. I've seen some terrible things. I didn't want him to fall. I didn't want to squeeze him. So they cleaned him off, and I cut his cord. Never made a sound, the horn. And then I cried. I had a tear in my eye. I said, I'm the first one to hurt him. I drew his blood, but I know that's part of living. It's in our DNA. We've got to do that. Then I took him, and I named him right there. I did the naming ceremony, which I know. I did it. But I was nobody else in the room. And like Don Zedillo said, it's emergency measures. So he was born listening to me, and I was talking to him, and I was looking at his eyes. They look black when they're just born. And I was just holding him like this, and I introduced him to this side of the house, and then I crossed. And Stephanie knows the ceremony because we've done it here. We've practiced it. And when we came back, and I gave her the baby, and he was still looking at us, and he just cried when I think they smacked him on the bum like this to start breathing. He whimpered, he made a noise, he didn't cry. And then she held him, and right away he went to her breasts and she started feeding him. And this doctor turned and she says, wow, she says, je ne comprends pas la langue Mohawk. She says, la bonne cérémonie. She says, what happened? I says, well, we just named him at the same time. So that's why we put on, because you got to sign those documents. So his name is Dohonia de Robert. I went 50-50 with his mother. I could have called him George. I'm trying to get rid of that name so fast. That's my slave name. To this boy, he's not a slave. Kind of is because he's got the last name. But we did this, and I felt so good. I felt a little better, a little braver, and I said, you know one thing, I'll never deliver another baby again. I've always had respect for women, but what you go through, you guys, I don't care how big a guy is. I think some guys would have passed out, but I wouldn't. I said I can't, and I thought his mother was very brave. She had so much faith in me, and I had to. The only time you can be strong is when the woman with you is strong. If she starts to shake, you know there's trouble. But she didn't shake. She had that new mom look, that radiance. They always put it around Jesus Christ, but it's not. It's a woman. A woman looks her greatest when she's having a baby, like my wife did. I was married before, and she looked great when she was having a baby. But I didn't deliver the baby. So I said, I'm going to change my whole life. And I did. So we bring him back and we do everything. They were living at my house and nobody came around. Said, they're going to kick you out of town. I said, nobody kicking me out of town. And finally one day I says, well, we've got to go get his paper. And you should have seen, we just walked in. I had him in his little baby thing. And I says, I'm signing up my son. Oh, you got to wait till he's 18 months and sitting up. I says, no. It's going to be done right now. And I held him in my hand. And it was just a little package. And she took his picture to it, and actually, because it goes to Ottawa. And they said, maybe they won't accept it. I says, I'm gambling that they will. I'm a gambler. I really am. But anyways, he got accepted. And it killed this person because she couldn't call. She couldn't literally pick up the phone and call the band council. And they would have said right away, no. So, my son, he's such a nice kid, like all kids are. But he's going to have a hard time because I'm his father. And I named him Dehonyede because his name means he takes a stand. Because on his side, he's Quebecois. His mother has they have Abenaki blood, but they don't have the papers. They went right into the Quebecois thing. So they're Quebecois. So he's the Haga, or like they say, Iroquois Quebecois. And I said, one day he's going to have to answer to his people on his mother's side because they're going to question him. Then one day he's going to be questioned by the Mohawks, not the Haga. And he'll have an answer for them, and he'll be strong. And the kid, he is very strong, not because he's my son, because I think he has a great mother too. And sometimes she lost a little faith in me, but I take care of my children through thick or thin, and I won't let there be any thin because I want everything to be good. He's the happiest child. They love him in that neck of the woods, and so he's being raised by her, and he does the Ohantagari Wadek. And him and I struck up a deal this year. I said, the Honya de toutes les matins, moi j'ai ouvert le Ohantagari Wadek à demain. I said, toi fermé à soir. Ah, Baba, he said. Okay, and then we got him to say it. And at the summer solstice, the Mayans did their ceremony at Stephanie's home, and so we went there. Oh, before that, we planted a great white pine in his yard. Him and I helped him dig the hole, and he said the words to plant the tree. And so the woman, she's Mayan, and Edith knows her. And she says, we're on Ganyagahaga territory. She says, so could you do the Ohantagari Wadek? So, that's respect. And I said, well, no, I won't do the Ohantagari Wadek. And she looked at me. I says, my son will. I said, Dehonyede, are you ready? And he said, Ede more, Baba. I says, yeah, I'll help you. Don't worry. And so I got on come saw, this, and then we started. And we went right around just the way I do it. And he repeated after me. And this Mayan woman had a tear in her eye. We were all looking at this little boy. And he was getting stronger. When I'm with him, he's so strong, And I wasn't going to cry, but I thought, what a moment. He said something I only learned and I told him, I said, I didn't say the Ohantagari Wadek until I was about 40 years old. So I said to you, you're only 7. You're way ahead of the game. But he loves it. So I know, he's going to have some tough times, but he's going to live up to his name, Dehonyede. He's always going to take a stand. And so, like when emergency measures are required, the Petit Donzerio has done it. I've done it. And we have to do it because this thing they call democracy, where majority wins and you stack the house, it doesn't work anywhere. That's why we have so many gun manufacturers. And they'll always be at war. And I mean, I wish it would stop because just watching that little boy and his mother was feeding him. I miss my son right away because it's nice to see a woman and her son bond or daughter. But this is again, thank you for bringing this up. This is stuff I had to say for a long time. Now you know my story or part of my story, and it's not like I'm a good storyteller. I'm telling you about what happened to me. And there's some stuff that I'm not too proud of, but if you want to hear it, I'll tell you. But again, I got no blood on my hands, but I offended some people. But in a way, they weren't people. They just had skin, bones, and flesh, but they didn't know how to talk. Where I can talk, and I won't anytime anyone has a problem, if I can help you, just ask me, and I will. Now,
Okay, what we're gonna do is we only got part of the way through that wampum, so we're gonna go through and finish it, and then we're gonna end off for today. So we'll finish at 3 wampum. We'll have 3 wampums under our belt. At this rate, it's gonna take us 30 days,
Yep.
but we're not gonna. It's not gonna take that. It's gonna take 29 minutes. Okay, so let's see. This is after, if, as it was said earlier, if there is any business like here, there's a way to get the message to Taradaho, and if it is warrants a council, then he will dispatch his runners to call a council. So you've heard of different examples, so now we're going to continue. When the chiefs are assembled, the council fire shall be kindled, but not with chestnut wood. And Taradaho shall formally open the council. Then shall Taradaho and his cousin chiefs, the firekeepers, announce the subject for discussion. Then Taradaho shall open the floor to the well, which is the Ganyalgahaga and the Senecas, who shall then present the issue in its entirety. So, that's not the end of the wampum, but just a little explanation there. So, keep in mind that, how will we do this? We'll use the map here, Turtle Island, as the example. This is the well to the north. These ones right here. The well sits at the back to the north, which is, as you know, within our nation is Rata Ironi, the wolf clan. The bear sits with their back to the south. But this could ever be. The turtles sit with their backs to the east where the sun rises. So that nation council is derived from the Grand Council. So the Grand Council to the north is the well. To the south is the deliberators. To the east is the Onondaga, the owner of the house. And so, again, if it was me, I bring an issue, send it to the running system, goes to Taradaho, they call everybody, okay, here comes the council, this is what's going on. So everybody's assembled. The well is made up of 2 parties, as is the deliberators made up of 2 parties. Here, in an international council, a grand council, the 2 parties is the Seneca and the Ganyalgahaga. Us and the Ganyalgahaga. Oh yeah, us, the Ganyalgahaga and the Seneca. No, we are the well. The well presents all issues, but it's identified that when it's called, Taradaho shall formally open the council, which means that, again, he must always be there. He presides over it. But he will announce what the subject is. Today we're going to be talking about tacos. So that's all he does. He just announces the subject. He does not present it. Once it is announced, then it is presented by the well. And then the well presents it. Today we're talking about tacos because of this. Because it's not something that is not under a point of contention. Anything that gets the council is because there's a point of contention. So they'll announce this is the whole issue. They'll announce all sides of it. And so they will then present it. Just so that you understand, that you keep in mind the process that's being identified. So, the Mohawks and Senecas will present the issue in its entirety. Okay, the smoke of the Confederate Council shall ever ascend and pierce the sky, so that other nations who may be allies may see the council fire of the great peace. Again, in order for that fire to be burning, Paradaho is the one that is charged with taking care of the council fire. So for it to ever be burning, he is to ever be present. He must be there. Paradaho and his cousin chiefs are entrusted with the keeping of the council fire. Henceforth, it is the duty of the Onondaga chiefs to remain ever vigilant in their territory, to have the area about the council fire in a constant state of readiness for a gathering of the nations. This is to mean that Paradaho and his cousin chiefs are never to leave the central fire of the 5 United Nations, but are constantly to remain in their territory, always ready to receive other nations. How? They're in their territories. Well, you know that we run from east to west. So that means, well, there's people to the north of us, people to the south of us, and there's people that the Onondagas rub shoulders with, rub elbows with. There's people that the Oneidas do, the Cayugas do. They're not just rubbing shoulders just with the people who are next to them. There's people above them and below them. And so the Onondagas are the central fire. They have only one door, which means all people come through that one door. Which means that there may be somebody who's right next to them who has an issue. So they're not going to go all the way over to the Ganyangahaga or all the way over to the Senecas to say, hey, this is our issue. They're going to present it to the Onondagas, and the Onondagas can call the other nations. So it's not just through that one avenue. It's to understand, like the Warrior Gabriel said, that when there is emergency or the conditions make it so that things will develop through the best possible channel. So, if there happens to be Ganyangahaga or Seneca in Onondaga territory at the time that somebody's wandering into Onondaga territory, then they will receive the message. If not, then the Onondagas will get it. It's just to identify that there is always avenues. We're never stuck in red tape. There's always avenues that we can take. The only thing here to emphasize, the only thing that's really necessary to emphasize, nothing more really, unless anybody has questions to discuss on this, is just to emphasize how much and how important it is for the Onondagas to stay in their place. Because what if the Ganyangahaga and the Senecas are at home and somebody wanders in? Well, and the Onondagas are on vacation. Well, somebody's got to be there because the smoke is always supposed to be piercing the sky. That means somebody has to be tending to that fire. Because the fact is that the Council of the Five Nations Confederacy is not just for the Five Nations Confederacy. The Council of the Five Nations handled business and affairs of all the nations. The fact is that people will say today, oh, we got our own nation, we got our own laws, our own councils. Yeah, sure, everybody does. But you know what? Other nations were not fully capable of handling their own affairs, their own business. Not to say that they were not grown up and they couldn't handle it, but the fact is that when it came to intricacies of law, protocols of nationhood, the Five Nations Longhouse Confederacy upon Turtle Island was the epitome of law, the epitome of nationhood. And so the fact is that many people, many other nations came to us not to resolve their affairs, but to assist them in their affairs. And so, not that it would grant or constitute Grand Council, but if somebody came in from some other nation and they wandered into Onondagas, the Onondagas could handle it unless it was of such importance that it constituted part of it. If not, if they wandered into the Onondaga or the Senecas or the Oneidas, the Cubas, everybody, each nation could handle that within their own knowledge of Constitution, of grounded us in it.
After Wounded Knee, Russell Means was a wanted man in the United States. He had a price on his head. He was to be shot, and there was going to be nobody was going to. What it was, Wounded Knee, and he managed to work his way to Onondaga, and he went under the Tree of Peace, and he was accepted. So at that time was emergency measures, and I'm proud of my brothers from Onondaga and sisters first, and they put him under the protection, and he's still alive. Huh? I think so. He's like 7 feet tall. I met him in New York City. No, he's not. Okay, he's not. But that was when it was like a Whiskey and Zaga War Measures Act. Somebody had to make a quick decision, and even the Americans know that under the Gaswant that they can do that. Did they want to recognize it? No, but they also are under that jurisdiction. That's why it's so alive and well. And I don't know if he died of natural causes, but I think he's alive. I don't want to bury him. Yes? Okay. But anyways, I really hope he's alive. But these are the things we got to start looking into still if he is. And it'd be nice to get his opinion on how he went in to ask for. While we're alive, he's alive, and people are still. Let's ask now, not later. And then we'll know. He'll give us another. What they say in our language, it will strengthen our bodies. And but this was a great time, and I mean it was in a war time, and it must have been terrible to have a dead or alive poster. Wasn't hanging out there, but the American government put it up because they wanted him killed. And it's nice to see that at that time the Kainarasaragoa was used and respected. Now,
That's similar circumstances is the circumstances that we talked about earlier about Homeland Security being from the United States being near Grand River in that Minnesotan dispute over apartments, over condos. There was this guy that we told you about that took that truck And anyways, they were after him. So he was a Mohawk guy, but he was from Grand River, and he was on the Wagon, and we held him here under our protection for, I think it was a couple of years. He stayed here with us. That guy, I forget what nation he's from, but he's from out BC. I think he's, what's with him? Uh, his name was Wolverine. He just recently died. If any of you recall, when there was that issue out in Burnt Church, I think that's New Brunswick, Burnt Church, it was about the lobster uh, fishing or whatever. They had the Department of Fisheries ram try to kill our people on the fishing boats. It was at that time they had a big, like a standoff there also. And Wolverine was here in our territory during the summer of 1990, and he was also at this place in Burke Church. Anyways, he was a wanted man by CSIS, RCMP, by Canada. And in order for him to get back across the country, if you're a wanted man, he had to go through the territories. And so this is where also here in our house that we harbored him and we gave him shelter. So it was under the same type of emergency powers where even though, as you know, we have nothing to do with Warrior Society. He was misled by the whole thing that happened in the summer of 90, but here was somebody from another nation that was standing for and assisting Native people in the different disputes. And so when he had to get home, we led him through here. We kept him here, we provided for him here, and we gave him food and shelter. And then from here, we passed him on to other people where all he did was move between the territories. He didn't move to Ontario or Quebec or anything like that. He only moved between the territories because of emergency powers that each nation still enacted to some degree at that time. Okay, anyways, that's the end of this wampum. If there is any question on it or anything, now is the time. If there isn't, then we're going to close the day. It's all pretty cut and dried, anyways. There is some wampums that we might spend a whole day on to explain. There's other wampums that are pretty much self-explanatory. You know what it means. But even the ones that we spend all day on, if you read it, they're self-explanatory. But different wampums may take longer. Other ones won't. Okay, so then the thing is, what is the close?
Now, the Taraji, you kiss a toga the wearers. You could hear the voices of the grandparents, grandfather, and mother thunderers. Only out of what the day, is a guy who I'm saying the one hold to go to what's been missing. Then a giga again, Rasarako, Auri Wage. It is time again to close this meeting of the great law. Then in there, as it's in the hold, what we in death, and that we learned very much. I'm so glad that you are all present here. Just remember, Kachik and Wahyagera didn't make this law. This is a law that was made before any boat even left England or wherever, Europe. So we're only enforcing the law. And I enjoy it. It's and you just are so fortunate that the non-Indian native people here is that you're sitting at something the rest of this Turtle Island will never see, and they'll only hear people say they're not allowed to be there. You are allowed to be here. Anywhere they don't let you in a longhouse, it is not a longhouse. Tell you right now. And I make a lot of many enemies, but I'm used to that. They're going to be the enemy, not me. I'm only following the law. Then the law is the enemy. And anyways, Onagiata Gonika Hawi, and again at this time, we give thanks to Mother Earth, and her great works. But they can that the people still gather, and still gather together and listen to the laws of the great white tat. I give thanks to everything on the land, within the land. Everything that is growing. All things that fly in the skies and the universe. And the things that reside within the waters on the planet. Did you know may you all return safely to where you are residing. And and once again I see so was Sudios. Have a great night.
Yeah. So we all got to work fast here and together, just in case it does rain. It might not, but if it does, we got to get everything out of here. We got to get set up, for dinner.
Yes, I'm done with my phone.